All right, three, two, one, let's go. We are here, 411 Sports World Network on YouTube, Mr. 411, MISTER, FOURONEONE on TikTok and on Instagram. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, the notification bells, and share because sharing is caring on all three platforms. In the house today with me is Brooks to Showcase. Brooks, how you doing and where can they find you?
Mostly active on Twitter. BA underscore case, BA underscore CASE.
All right. And the one and only hot tub. Well, excuse me, the original hot tub Tony. What's going on?
Ain't nothing much, man. There's a lot of clones, but cannot be cloned as the original Hot Tub Tony. One time,
And how can they find you, hot tub?
Hot Tub Tony on Instagram, Hot Tub Tony on TikTok.
All right, there you have it. All right, man. These are some wonderful men here on this episode. We're tackling three topics. You see it on the screen. One of my favorite pro wrestlers of all time, The Rock, loses weight, and we're gonna talk about that and give you our thoughts on why and what's going on there. The football, and football season just kicked off, NFL just past weekend, and we're going to talk about the Washington Commanders and just a Hall of Famer from that team, and just kind of get into the discussion of the name and if and will it change, or if and will it change back to the original name. And third, we're going to talk about out in California, in high school sports. There was a sports, and it's going on across the nation, but there was a transgender athlete that performed out there, and there was a lot of backlash for that. So we'll give you our thoughts on those things as well, on that as well. So get ready for the show. All right, we'll cue things up here. Get the first one rolling, then we're gonna go. All right, The Rock. Okay, The Rock. He's transformed, man. He's transformed his look. He lost over 70 pounds or close to it, approximately. And man, we're gonna try to get into the why. But before we do that, let's take a look at this quick video.
Initiative can go a very long, long way. Maybe just do the dishes I'll give.
Not the same.
All right, The Rock, looking like a pebble. What's going on? What's your thoughts, fellas?
Ozempic.
Could be it.
You don't lose, you don't lose 70 pounds in a matter of a couple of weeks and get that look. You see his head still big. He got the steroid head, and that's the closest example I've seen to what we see with that dramatic change on The Rock would be Dave Bautista, and they both have the same look. That's Ozempic. Because even cycling off steroids, if that was the case, and I'll say allegedly, because it's been alleged that Rock was roided up. I can't say he was or he wasn't.
Right.
But even with cycling off steroids and something I'm familiar with, I've been in those circles in my past. I know you can't tell now because I didn't get a whole lot of weight. But at one time, Hot Tub was a sexy motherfucker. With he used to get it. I was sexy as hell about a decade. I'm still big and sexy, but But yeah, I knew a lot of those. I knew a lot of guys that did some performance enhancing. I say that I won't say no names to embarrass nobody. But
Okay, don't say no.
when they cycled off, they didn't get skinny. They gained a lot of weight. They gained a lot of fat.
Okay.
And it wasn't this dramatic shredding. And I had a close friend of mine. She's from Atlanta too. I named Montina. I can't say her name. Montina was a professional bodybuilder. She started over in Iraq with us, and she actually went pro with it. But when she was shred and drop a lot of weight dramatically, she didn't have the big head look. I'd say that the lollipop look that you seeing with the Rock and even Batista. That's Ozempic. That's just my take on it.
All right. What about you, Brooks?
I mean, it could be a lot of reasons. I mean, it could be a signal of, wanting to not get typecast as he is in movies, the big action hero with the big muscles and, the Fast and Furious uh type role. It may be a signal that he wants to get out of that vein. He wants to expand in the types of roles he takes in movies. I think that's possibly it. Um, is this necessarily? I think the debate is this is this necessarily bad? It kind of looks more healthy. I mean, I'm sure it's hard to I'm sure it's hard to maintain all that muscle that you associate him with. I'm sure this is a lot. I mean, I equate it to look at the NFL football players who retire and how their bodies change. Now, I don't know over what span of time this has
Hmm.
happened over, but the NFL players or the professional athletes in general, especially football players, like you think of linemen who have to be really bulked up, how their body changes when they retire. It kind of gives off that kind of vibes to me. Um, Again, my opinion would be it, it's a little bit easier to maintain the look he's got now. And also, again, maybe signaling to something associated with his movie career. I think that would be what I take away from it.
I,
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump in there real quick because I hear what you're saying, and that does make sense that it'd be for better roles and everything like that. So we do understand that. But we've seen Rock at this size before. He started his professional wrestling career smaller,
Right.
around the
Yeah.
Yeah.
same, but it's a dramatic look difference. And I got to go back to I give you an example. Barry Bonds. Look at
Hmm.
Barry's career and shout out to Barry Bonds. I'm not making any allegations against him because I know that's a sensitive subject for a lot of people. But we noticed as his career went on, his head got big as hell. That clear cut sign because you can shred and you can lose weight. But if you lose weight too fast, your head does not have the time, your facial structure does not have the time to adjust. It's not a gradual come down. And you dropping weight that dramatically, you cannot do that health and maintain health without some kind of pharmaceutical intervention. Now, I was talking to Mr. 411 about this a couple of days ago when this topic came up. And he said something that made a lot of sense. Is The Rock going for a political run? And that made that got my wheels to turning. I said, okay, well maybe he's trying to go the Arnold Schwarzenegger Jesse Ventura route and get into politics. And that that large frame, even though Arnold was able to do it with his large frame and still get elected, I can see where The Rock is trying to go into the veins of like a Barack Obama. I want to be slim down that side that to look presidential. Only problem with that is that lollipop head, bro. You got to get that head under control. If you're gonna lose that kind of weight, you might need to see a surgeon see if they can just compact the size of that head down. Because I mean, you look ridiculous.
Well, you still got a couple more years, right, before to get that part squared away.
Oh yeah.
I would say.
If that's what the route he wants to go, the earliest we could see Rock out there running for any political position would be a 2028 run. I can't see him getting them prepared and ready for to run for a Senate seat, which would probably be the most likely
Yeah.
scenario. I can't see that happening within less than a year.
Yeah. Yeah. And some of the things that I've heard is like, okay, they had the 15-minute standing ovation for him when they had the premiere viewing of the movie that's coming out in October where he plays the UFC fighter. Um
Hmm.
and and he was, it went straight to his heart, and he was taken aback by it. And yes, there is a movie that they're going to be doing. It's an international film, I believe. Um, but it's some sort of movie where he's going to play a role of uh, I think it's a film called Lizard Music, and so it's based off a novel written by Daniel Pinkwater. And I guess the type of character is not going to look like The Rock did in WWE. So he's preparing himself for that, which really upsets me a little bit because like he had just came back to WWE and he was getting involved with some things in the ring, and now that part of the craze is going to be gone because we thought he was going to get in there with Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes and some of those guys, and even John Cena before Cena retires in December. But that's all off the table now, off the books. I mean, just looking at him now, like he's nowhere near going to be in the ring. But with this new movie that he's going to be playing in, I think that's what's going to happen there. Um, but Brooks, I'd be curious to hear what you think. Do you think The Rock, can run for president?
The thing about that was you got to put yourself in the spotlight. You got to ease yourself. You got to start giving your opinions on things. And he just hasn't done that. You think of Stephen A. Smith. I saw him on Bill Maher the other day. I think he's actually getting a political talk show at some point in the Sirius XM station I listen to a lot. Um, yeah, you got to put yourself out there and start making stances and start talking. And I just don't see that from him. And you got to do it early. Like he can't wait. You got to put yourself out there. If you're going to make that run, yeah, you got to be out there in the spotlight, giving your opinions on things. And I just don't see that. I just don't see that from him, and I just don't know. I don't have a feel for where he is politically. Um, I think Stephen A. Smith is probably the example. He's a Democrat, but he is way more to the center than most.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's gonna if you're gonna be a celebrity, and with no political experience, I think you got to walk that line and be in the middle and speak to the common person. We're so much represented by the extremes of each party. We hear from them the most, but they don't really represent. I think a majority of people, the growing majority of people are independents. And I think you got to take that space. So, like I said, I haven't heard him like come out like that. So I would say he's not gearing up for that, or else he'd be in the spotlight a little bit more.
Mhm.
Like I said, think like a Stephen A. Smith is kind of. I think he's testing the waters for it very much. But you don't see The Rock doing that. So I think this is purely, uh, like I said, like you mentioned that movie. I think this is purely movie related.
All right. Okay, we Jesse the Body Ventura. That was a name that I remember Hot Tub bringing up, and he was a successful pro wrestler that turned into politics, and I,
Hmm.
I could see The Rock. I could see him being, somewhat successful in doing this if done right. So, let's look at. It's going to be something way down the road, though. At least 28, as Hot Tub was saying earlier. But yeah, those are our theories on The Rock. You know what I'm saying? We love to hear your theories. Make sure you send those, post those out there on the re-air and on the shorts and everything, so we can get some more people's thought on that. But I had to get the thoughts from the big two here. All right, anything else on Rock before we move on?
Yeah, y'all tell The Rock he looks ridiculous. His head is
I, the one thing I will say, when you have as much money as him, when you are in movies, I'm pretty sure I would gear away from calling it unhealthy. I'm sure he's got the best people on it to do this in the most healthy way possible. Is what I'll say. Just with the movie set, I'm sure he's got dietitians and all types of people in his corner, making sure he does this help like in the most healthy way possible. So I wouldn't I would gear away from saying he looks unhealthy. I'm sure he had enough people and money invested in this into it with the least amount of in the most healthy way possible. I'll say that.
I,
Yeah.
I, I can see that, and I guarantee you that. But what does that do for the super fan that's wanting to follow in his footsteps? When Rock bulk up, they bulked up. When Rock slimmed
Sure.
down, they don't have access to
Right.
and everything. So this is
Yeah.
not something you want to become a trend. And like I say, with Dave Bautista actually starting that wave, and I wouldn't be surprised if I see John Cena at some point do the exact same thing.
Good point. Yeah, because
Chris,
he's on that track to be the next one to be that. He's already been in films and everything, but he's going full time after his last match around December 14th, and it will be in Boston, by the way. All right. The movie Smashing Machine. That's the name of the movie where he plays the MMA fighter Mark Kerr. I'm going to check that out. I think it comes out October 3rd, somewhere right in there. So we'll be on the lookout for that and check out Rock's performance. All right, we're going to jump into the next topic. You see on the screen there, football team to change their name again. We're going to talk about that. Let's let this video play.
Team and then Commanders. How did you feel about all that?
My first reaction was, man, change the name. Why would we not change the name if this is hurting this people? Since that time, I feel like there was some level of duping. You know, we got duped because I never really could put a face or a name to what I was hearing. It's like, who said this? It's like, well, actually, I don't know. Even to this moment, I still don't know who said it. Who really was it?
You don't think there was actually any outrage about it?
There was never a time when I saw on TV or somewhere a human standing, saying whatever. I never saw it.
I'm a Cleveland Indians fan, and they had to change their name as well. They interviewed all these people that were outraged by it, and it was 6 white people. You know, it's like because I guess if you do the history of it, there was an Indian that played, a Native American that played for the Indians back in the early 1890s. And
All right, so there's the video there. That's a good snippet of it. You heard with Darryl Green, the Hall of Famer for the Washington Redskins / Commanders, had to say. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts?
Team and then Commanders.
So this is a tricky one because and for several reasons. I get it. You know, cultural appropriation. You want to be sensitive to other people's culture. Problem with that is that in that Washington area, when we look at the Native American tribes that were in the area, a couple of them, the Natchez, I want to. That's the one I sent you a little earlier, where the young lady was talking about that tribe. I want to say it's hard to pronounce the name. The Natchez tribe, the Nottoway tribe, and if you know the Nottoway name, if that sounds familiar, that's the same people that built the Nottoway plantation. That was a Black Native American tribe. So when we talk about in that Washington, D.C. area, those are not just the quote unquote red Native Americans, but also Black Native American tribes that were collective in that Washington, D.C. DMV area. You look at, that's a mighty, mighty, mighty dog mascot you got there. So
Yeah.
those people in those tribes have a say so in it, and I don't think they were even consulted when the name change controversy came up. I'm glad the white guy on the Dare Green video said the quiet part out loud. It's not the native tribes that are making the issue about it. It's not the Black members of the tribes that are making the issue about it. It's other white people. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah.
And I have a unique perspective as well as what and Brooks.
Yeah.
We got the Atlanta Braves, and you better not change that name. Because even down here, we have a saying that the Creek Indian tribe was a mixed tribe of red natives and black natives and black slaves. Same way with the Seminole tribe in South Georgia and predominantly in Florida and South Georgia. And the Cherokee, which were also in the state of Georgia. So yes, no, don't change that name. Now, if Cleveland wanted to do it, if the Indians felt that it was necessary, hey, kudos to them. But don't do it here. That's my take on
it. All right, Brooks.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is you got to understand. Trump knows how to deflect from whatever issue. If he gets any heat on any issue, he is the master deflector. And this came out of that. One day he was just like, I think he was taking heat for the Epstein shit, and he was like, you know what? They should change their name back to the Redskins. I was like, all right, man, just randomly. And he knows how to dial that button. He knows the hot button issues with people. And like I said, this is all just coming from his kind of right wing party and his followers. I mean, this is wholly came up from that, and um, but just keep that. I mean, I just keep that in mind as we get into this debate. Why it came back into the news
Yeah.
cycle, but as far as we go with this, this trend that kind of started around like the Me Too movement, and we talked about statues, and we looked at sports teams and mascots and all of that. It's a very slippery slope, I think. Especially when you get into like, you're talking about from I get there are reasons, you know, there this guy who has a statue did a bad thing. Okay. Redskin is maybe considered a slur to some Native Americans, sure. But there's also its history. And when you go and you just change everything, you take statues down, you change team names that have been around for a while. That's just kind of whitewashing history to me. You can have like speak with nuance, speak with context about it. I don't think you just go down. I just don't think you just go around and start taking down statues and changing names. And I get there's probably some exceptions to that rule, and maybe and the Redskins was an exception. But I think it's a very slippery slope to where you're just changing everything. Um, so I think that's what I would say. Is like everybody, especially you get into the statues, like everybody's flawed, everybody's made mistakes. Who deserves to be on a statue? You have that debate. And that's what I'm saying. That's a slippery slope. Now you're talking about
Hmm.
what's the standard of somebody getting a statue? Well, why can't it just be history? Why can't you take the good and the bad? I just don't. The conversations about this aren't nuanced enough to me. It's just like he did this, take the statue down. Well, history is both good and bad. Why did the statue go up? You can have all that context and discussion, and you can just look at it as history. And again, I'm not saying that there aren't exceptions. Then some statues need to come down, and maybe some names need to be changed. My point is just it's a slippery slope, and I think we're getting to that point where we may need to just slow it down a little bit and have some more thoughtful, nuanced discussions before we just start changing everything.
Yeah.
You know,
And like what Daryl Green was saying, he was like, he couldn't shake the feeling. He said it didn't add up. And he was like, who are the people really behind this? These are the things like, that now you start asking questions after the first initial, you know, reaction. And like you say, this name has been around forever. To watch the Redskins. I mean, some
Yeah.
people still say it. Do you remember the Syracuse Orangemen? Right, they changed that to the Orange. The St. John's Storm. They're the Storm now, but they used to be called the Redmen. So those
Hmm.
those names have changed, and those were. I mean, I think they changed those a couple of decades ago, or
Yeah.
at least over a decade ago when they
Yeah.
changed those names.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Braves. When did the
Yeah,
stuff about the Braves fire up? When they made the World Series and they made a deep run in the playoffs. To me,
yeah,
that's just manufacturing the story. The Braves are in the spotlight, so you want to talk about it now. But when they're not, you don't want to talk about it. To me, that means it's just something manufactured by the media. Like there's no real outrage other than they're in the spotlight. Because I tell you what, you got the Chiefs, Florida State. They all do a similar thing to the Braves as far as the chanting and thing like
right.
that. And the Braves already took. There was a kind of a logo similar to that. The Redskins, the old Redskins logo that we changed. So I mean, there
Oh
has been
yeah.
changes. So
oh,
I mean,
Hmm.
knock a
but I'm
hump.
just not going to put much stock in it when the Braves make the World Series and then this topic comes up, and then when it was finished, it went away. I mean, to me, that tells you all you need to know about whether there's real outrage behind this or not.
Well, something you said now, I kind of agree with and kind of disagree with. When you said the whitewashing the history, I agree with that. If we're going to have the statues up, if we're going to have all of these monuments to a let's call it the racist history, then
Sure.
put context than tell the whole history. Because what I'm not in favor of is what he's doing with the what Trump's doing with the Smithsonian and hiding.
Right.
I also understand that could be a touchy subject too, because if you look at Nazi Germany, after the Nazis were deposed in Germany, Germany went out of their way to get rid of anything Nazi related, anything referencing World War II. They took it out of their history, and they're having problems right now with a resurgence of it because they're having it's a similar issue that we're having, that you have a certain segment of that population say, hey, this is our history, we want to celebrate our history. Now me personally, when it comes to the Confederate history, I would have said, hey, take all that shit down. We never gonna we not if we're gonna move forward, then we're gonna move forward. But
Sure.
I'm not a fan of erasing. That's history erasing, and I'm not a fan of that either.
Yeah.
We're gonna have it, put it in context, and I mean the good, the bad, the ugly, because what I don't want to happen is it's that history is forgotten, then it repeats itself.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yep.
and I'm with you. Like the Trump's reasoning behind that is let's highlight all the great things that USA would do. Well, that's not history. That's your own version of history. That's picking out certain things and saying that's history. So I'm with you there. That's and I'm agreeing with the Smithsonian thing and what he's doing in a lot of the arts around. He took over the Kennedy Center, and I think he had a lot of influence on who the Kennedy Center honors. They do that honors thing, and they celebrate all the different artists and whoever, and I think he had a lot behind who was selected in that. So um, but yeah, I mean, you gotta look at history with the good and the bad. You can still have, it's not mutually exclusive. You can still have pride in this country and acknowledge the bad things that we've done. For example, how we treated the Japanese after World War II. The encampments and whatnot. There's we've done bad things, and we have to acknowledge that. And again, you could say, but you acknowledge the progress as well, how far we've come in certain areas like civil rights. But again, I don't think just because and I think this is prevalent a lot with the younger crowd as well. They just see they focus more on the bad things than the good. You know, they're always looking as terms of oppressed and oppressor, and like I said, I think you can have pride in this country and realize all the mistakes we've made along the way, and then acknowledge the progress and the good things. It's got to be a holistic view.
I'm under the camp of let's just be honest about everything dealing with America. I am a person who comes from people who have a 400-year grievance with this country, but I'm also a person who is a fourth generation soldier. Every man that's been in my family since Reconstruction, since we've been able to serve in the military, have served as has been a member of my family and my direct bloodline from dad to granddad to great granddad that has served this country. I believe in what America, the virtues America expounds, but they don't live up to. With
Mhm.
that being said, I'm honest about where I'm at as well, and we can acknowledge the progress and we can acknowledge the lack of progress, which is that
Mhm.
as much as it's progressed, it's regressed in a lot of areas to the point where it's looking like it's going in the opposite direction. So,
Sure.
but we have to put all that in context. We have to have everything. I'm telling the whole history. I am an amateur historian. I love history. The favorite subject in school, favorite subject now. So it's a lot of history that I am well versed in. With that being
Mhm.
said, I don't want that history lost. I think, even in schools, I think all history should be taught. Don't label it Black history; it's American history.
Mhm.
Yep.
We're a huge part of this American story. So our history is American history, and teach it, show it, show your statues. Because let's be honest, A lot of people don't know this. A lot of people think that the monuments and the statues have been there since the Civil War. They haven't. A lot of those came about in the 50s and 60s. Stone Mountain was finished in what, the 1970s?
Mm-hmm.
Started in the 40s. So that's a 30-year project. But they're not these antique relics of the past. No, they're fairly recent. You put them up there, you're proud of your history, now live up to it. Now, when we examine that history, you're not tied to those. You was proud of those monuments. Continue to be proud of those monuments when the whole history is told. And that's how I look at it.
Yep. And speaking of history, actually there's a huge divide right there in the DC area where the residents actually do not like the commander's name.
Yeah.
They really want there's a big push for bringing back the Redskins name.
And I'm in the same vein as the people. I mean, I don't see, if anything, it brought highlight to Native American culture.
There you go. Yep.
And it's not it's a caricature like blackface or something like that. No, they pretty respectful. That's just me speaking now. If there are any Native Americans out there that's listening that would like to come up and educate me why it is offensive, I'm all ears. But you look like they portrayed you in a fairly decent light.
Yep. Oh yeah, absolutely. Any other remarks on this one?
Well, I think one thing you should add is the Commanders. That's just a shitty name. So
Yeah.
they just change it. They just change it. I mean, part of the outrage is Commanders suck. So I mean, maybe they should have came up with a better name. Like the Indians went to the Guardians. That's terrible too. Like
Yeah.
just terrible names. Like put some actual thought into it and have a better name, and maybe they wouldn't be wanting to go back. That's probably part of it.
That's fair enough. Because I don't like either one of those names.
No, it's terrible.
Yeah, I was thinking they can go with something like Warhawks or something, something a little stronger. But hey, the
I mean,
Commanders.
it's DC. There's so much available to you that it could be political in nature, government. It could be so. I mean, there's just so much they could have done. It's Commanders. It's just kind of stale.
This is Commanders in Chief. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
If the Commanders in Chiefs played in the Super Bowl, that would have been a cool. name. Commanders in Chiefs. If they
Yeah.
played each other in the Super Bowl.
That's better than Commanders.
Yeah, and speaking of Chiefs, I mean, I guess that's okay, right? I mean, that name I doubt that name ever changes.
No, I don't think you're gonna. Yeah, I don't think you're gonna get. I'm not sure what else is out there in the sports world that you're gonna change. To be honest with you.
I mean, we're on the tail end of that politically correct era. You can see the pendulum swinging back towards the right. I ain't even gonna say towards the right. I say more center.
Sure.
I think it was, we went through a period where we swung too far left and then we swung too far right, and everybody's tired of that. It's coming back to, hey man, let's do it common sense, and coming to that common sense era that is looking like it's going in that direction. People gonna be less. They're gonna be like, hey man, I don't care nothing about that. You want to spend billions of dollars rebranding, that's your business. I wouldn't, but hey, that's up to the owners.
Yep. And it had to been some, like I said, this was happening right around that COVID era, right? And a lot of things were going on. But I mean, this name has been there forever. There's been talk about it even back in the '91 Super Bowl. You remember when the Redskins played Buffalo, I believe, in the Super Bowl back in '91. There was a lot of protesting going on in Minnesota at that time, where the Super Bowl was held, and then that just went away, died away, and then like 20 something years later, here we come. You know what I'm saying? Here we go with this again. So I think there was a lot given in to succumb to some pressure, or maybe even just when it comes to the dollars. You get what I'm saying? Like they probably did it because they didn't want to get hit and lose a lot of sponsorships at that time.
But that's not
Make it
the
known.
right.
Make it known. But both sides do this. Like
Yeah,
I think the right wants you to think like the woke culture is the like doers of this. Like the right does it too. You think about that Bud Light commercial where they had the trans girl and they freaked out over that. The Crackle Barrel logo, they freaked out over. They do
yeah,
it too. Both sides do it. So let's
yeah,
not act like it's just the Democrats or the left doing all this what they consider woke. I mean, it's both sides. It's
yeah.
both sides doing it.
Hey man, if Cracker Barrel could change their logo in a week, um, I'm gonna lean more if I had to lay some money down in Vegas that it's gonna go back to Redskins.
Yeah. Well, again, it goes back to when they rebrand, like the Crackle Barrel logo. It was terrible. Like the new one was just so bad. I mean, that's part of it.
Both
Like
of
if you're gonna rebrand, I mean, good lord, like actually do it well. I mean, I don't see how you would let, especially that Crackle Barrel logo. How do you let that? How does somebody come up with that? How do you run with that? That's so bad.
Yeah. You was gonna say something to it?
yeah, both of them are bad. I mean, with talking about Cracker Barrel, I get it. I understand why they rebranded. Uh, you go to in the Cracker Barrel. We got one about 20 minutes away from my house. I'm not a fan of going there, but you know, my mom Cracker Barrel, my aunts like Cracker Barrel, so when they come to Covington, I take them to Cracker Barrel, and you see who their customer base is. It's old people.
Mhm.
Cracker
Yeah,
Barrel rebrand to survive because your average customer is 65 or older.
yeah.
Right.
You're not gonna have any day parties there and hookahs and all that. Yeah,
You know, you got to. How are we going to train a younger audience
yeah,
or younger customer base, I should say? And I get it. You should have quietly done it. Nobody would have noticed. As nobody looked at that goddamn sign in 30 years, 40 years.
I know I didn't.
If you'd have took the man off of there and not said anything, nobody would have known. It would have been years before anybody would have noticed. But you made it public, and you left yourself open to public scrutiny. When you leave
Yeah,
yourself open to public scrutiny, the public is going to scrutinize you.
that's right. That's right. All right, gentlemen. And hey, just to close it out, Daryl Green, for those who may say, man, who's this guy? Why did y'all play the video? Well, he is like Mr. Washington Redskin. I mean, he's one of the greatest uh, defensive backs ever, one of the better defensive players ever as well. And
Yep.
he played there for a long, long time. He had a long career for the Redskins. And so that's why his voice matters when it comes to talking about his team.
Is he the longest serving Redskin player?
Oof. I had to dig into the history books, but
Uh,
I would definitely say he's got to be right up there. But we'll post that out there tonight.
I want to
He,
say I could be
he
wrong,
I
but
think it's 20-something years.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean he played a long time, and he was phenomenal shape. You know, to play defensive back for as long as he did and be effective.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we'll make sure we get that out there, Hot Tub. All right. So let's get to topic number 3. This is the final topic for today on this episode. Let's get the video up and running, and should be a good one.
A transgender 16-year-old girl is set to compete in California's high school track and field championship this weekend, and it has reignited a controversy over trans girls and women in sports. High school junior A.B. Hernandez has qualified for the long jump and the triple jump, but her success has drawn the attention of President Donald Trump. Trump has threatened to withhold federal funding from California if she competes this weekend. It's the latest example of Trump using funding to push his own agenda. California has allowed transgender students to compete in categories according to their gender identity since 2013. But this week, the state's high school sports federation introduced a temporary rule that would allow an extra slot for cisgender girls in competitions where a transgender girl also qualifies. They say that this way all of the athletes will get an opportunity to compete. California governor.
All right. So y'all got that, and we're gonna break this into different segments here. AB Hernandez is who they mentioned in this video. Now, competition and all that already happened, but it's still worth talking about. And AB Hernandez, trans girl playing in sports. Let's get your thoughts on this about trans girls in sports, and then also tackle the part about Trump and threatening state funds. I'd love to hear your thoughts on those things.
Foolishness. Foolishness. That's my thought. I mean,
Is that on all the above?
are we still doing this? Are we honestly still doing this? I'm sorry. You can counsel me if you can. I don't have anything for you to counsel. That's a man. That's a male. If you want to call her a girl, cool. Let them compete against each other. They should. If you're gonna do it, if you want to make this fair, and if you want to be considered, if you were born one way and you want to now be this way, cool. More power to you. I'm not against that. Live your life. Do what you want to do. Have a league for them. You have a boys' league, a girls' league, and a trans league, and they can compete with one another. Is that not fair? Is that not equality?
Mm.
But to put you, I might be old, but I might be getting old. And people gonna say what they want to say. You were born a male. Genetically, you are stronger, physically faster. You're physically stronger and faster. It's not fair for you to compete with the girls. I don't want to see Dwight Howard in the WNBA where he's gonna score 150 points a game. That's just not fair to the ladies.
Yeah.
And vice versa. You ask the inverse, the females that have transitioned into males, they don't want to compete with men because they understand, yeah, I might take on the physical aesthetics of a man, but I'm not a man. I can take all the hormones that I want, all the testosterone boosters that I want. Physically, it's going to be a limit to what I can do to compete with the males. It's only the men that transition into women that want to compete against the women. And if you couldn't cut it as a male, I don't think you should be able to now rebrand yourself as a female and go against the females and become champion. No, not at all. Start a league for young. It's enough. It's enough transgender athletes, I think, at that point, especially in California, to where they can compete with one another. So then that's fair. If you become a champion of the transgender school, you're the best transgender in the country at that sport. You should be celebrated as the champion that you are. The same as the boys, the same as the girls. But you should not compete with the females. And Gavin Newsom need to cut this bullshit out. California is just California politics. I'm not gonna say California because there's a lot of people in California that don't agree with what's been going on apparently the last decade or so. But Gavin Newsom is indicative of California politics and California, a lot of the things wrong with the state of California. Stop this foolishness, Gavin Newsom.
And I tell you, man, on TikTok, there's a lot of debate on this. It's been going on for months, and a lot of the sentiments that you just gave is a lot of responses that I've noticed on the TikTok page. Brooks, what are your thoughts, man, on trans girls in sports?
Yeah. I mean, here's it's such a hot button topic, and again, we go back to Trump. He knows these topics. He knows what they are. There was the famous political ad when he was running against Harris. Like Harris is for they, them. Trump is for you or us. Like, and that was a really successful ad. And it touched on it hit a nerve with a lot of people. The the context, the thing that I've never understood about this is as much media attention as it gets and so much spotlight it gets, trans people only make up, I think estimates are like it's 1 or 2% of the U.S. population. There's
It,
not a lot of trans people.
Mhm.
it's less
Um,
than percent of the population, less than 1%.
yeah, and then you think about okay, a subset of that is trans athletes. That's even smaller. Like the outrage does not meet, you know, how prevalent it is. It's really,
Yeah.
really rare. And that really doesn't get acknowledged. I think, especially when you think about Trump and his MAGA, I think they just think it's just everywhere. It's a really small subset of people that are trans athletes. And you go, maybe high school is a little bit bigger pool, but then you go in like college, that's an even smaller pool. Um, so let's acknowledge that this is not, it's just not just there's just not a lot of trans athletes out there where it's not proportional to the amount of media attention it gets. I think that's what that kind of bothers me a little bit. Um, but the other side of it is I think Democrats, they will not, again, I said the word nuanced. They don't, you have to acknowledge that a trans, a trans female, there's inherent disadvantage when a trans female plays in female sports. I
Hmm.
mean,
Yeah.
acknowledge that.
Yep.
I don't know why that's controversial for somebody on the left to say. Say it. It's a fact. Sure. It, there's going to be situations where it's a disadvantage, especially you get a more physical, you look at more physical sports like basketball.
Yep.
There's
Boxing.
there's an advantage. Yeah, it's boxing. There's an advantage there. Um, and I think that's where the messaging has been really bad from Democrats is they just don't acknowledge that. And I don't think it's a controversial thing to say. Um, but then I'll go back, on if you go to the right, the thing I don't like about how the right handles it is they just want to use, I think they just want to use this topic to disparage trans people. I think they use it more to as an outlet for their hatred of trans people. Whether you believe in it or not, that's really not the question. But you are. I think they want to use this to spew hate towards that community, a community that has higher rates of suicide than any than most categories of people. They have a high suicide rate. They are bullied more. It's already a tough, it's already a tough life. And I've known, I've worked with trans people. They don't transition so they could be good at sports. I'll tell you
Yeah.
that. It's a condition, and there's a lot of, again, don't I try to approach this with a lot of nuance, especially when you get into like, you know, the hormones and the surgeries. At what age should that be? Should you do that? Yeah, I'm open to that discussion. But in general, it's a subset of people that again are bullied. They're called out in the media a lot. There's a lot of hatred towards them. And I just think, the right I think they use this issue to spew that hate, and I think the left just they won't acknowledge simple facts about this. Like again, trans females in a female sport is an inherent advantage. Um, do I think there's enough to make a trans league? I don't think so, and I don't know the answer to because I my solution would be, you know, I want a solution that makes it fair for everybody. And I don't know if that exists, which makes it
Mm.
such a tough topic to tackle. Um, but
Brooks,
like I said, I have problems with both sides in their messaging. Um,
Brooks, I'm
and,
gonna
and
have, I'm
go
gonna
ahead.
have to jump in there and disagree with you on that. I think you should. I think they should make a league. I think they should do exactly what the WNBA did, and we see the results of a WNBA. The women wanted a league. Okay, you got a league now that you don't even support. The men support. The NBA props it up, and your fan base for the WNBA is what? Men. We watch guys like us that sit up here. We watch the WNBA more than the women that made a whole lot of noise to get the league do. And I think we should that same model example should be shown. Give them their own league. And if it can't stand up on its own, if the athletes are not there, if the audience is not there, then it don't deserve to exist. Then that's a dead issue now because we gave you your own league, you didn't
Yeah.
support it, you didn't prop it up, the fan base wasn't there, the revenue wasn't there. We let it put alone for all these for however many years it put alone, same as the WNBA, and when it ultimately fails, now let's move on. You're not playing in women's sports anymore. We're not gonna let that happen. We gave you your own league, it didn't work. Too bad, so sad. That's
Yeah.
a
You have to.
I,
You have to. Oh, go ahead, Bruce. Respond, please.
I was gonna say, I think there's, like I said, I think there's problems with that when you talk about it's just a numbers game. One of the issues with that, I just don't know if they got numbers to stand up their own divisions within high school sports, their own professional leagues, what have you. I also think, um, you know, I think these trans people just want to play, just want to play sports and being on a team of with the gender they identify with. I think if you give them their own league, I think that's gonna make it. Well, I think they're gonna feel even more ostracized than they already are. Um, and so I wonder, again, I'm not saying it's not a terrible idea. I think in terms of you think about fairness, absolutely, like that seems like a fair solution. But there are some things I don't like about it. Like I said, the numbers game, not sure it even work. But again, I think
part.
they want to be a part of a team, and I think they're going to feel ostracized if you just give them their own league. And I feel they'll make them they'll it puts even more of a spotlight on the fact that they are trans, which I think you know they
But
just want to feel
But
normal. So
but they want the acceptance. What more? What bigger sign of acceptance would it be than to give you your own league where you can be celebrated in your unique situation and what you got going on? But you don't.
like I said, I think there's. I'm not saying it's inherently bad idea. Like I said, I agree with some of it. I think it's fair.
Brooke,
But yeah.
I'm with you. It's a terrible idea. It's a terrible. I'm just proving the point. What I'm saying. It's a terrible idea. But we
you
have to.
saying let it happen, let it burn.
Yeah,
That's what you saying.
let it play. Let it play
Yeah.
itself. Terrible idea. It's going to be a complete waste of money, and it's going to be a fiasco. But
Well. Oh, go
let
ahead.
go through to show them the ridiculousness of what they're asking. I have daughters. My daughters are grown. My daughters, when they were in high school, they played sports. I have a niece that plays basketball. They had that issue where a trans boy wanted to. I'm sorry. I respect your pronoun. A trans
Girl.
person, I don't know her
Right.
pronoun, wanted to play on the team, and the girls overwhelmingly, not the boys, not anybody
Mhm.
in the girls on the team didn't feel comfortable. She said the person was physically imposing compared to the girls. Then there's a locker room situation. What locker room do we put them in? Can't put them in the boys' locker room, but can't put them in the girls' locker room either.
Right.
There are logistical
Ooh.
that have to be worked out when you talk about putting one athlete, and if we're doing all of this and it's becoming a nationwide issue for one athlete, no, absolutely not. That one person does not trump everybody else's comfort. Your comfort does not trump everybody else's comfort. You're gonna be miserable like everybody else. Deal with it. This is America, and it's not working out for any of us. Black, white, Latino, Asian, everybody's getting it. And that's the beautiful thing about America. That's what I do like about the Trump administration. Everybody's getting it. There's no one group that has good right now. No, everybody. Light it out. That's fairness. That is actually he has accomplished something that no other president can do. He made it fair across the board. Almost. But this is one of those times in history where everybody's equally miserable. That's equality. That's America.
Hey, man, put that on a t-shirt. Equally miserable.
Yeah. If we can't all be comfortable, let's all be equally uncomfortable. I'm cool with that. I am as a black person. I am cool with that. If we all uncomfortable there, hell, maybe we can get some shit done now. Maybe we can come together and make some change. So if we all gonna be uncomfortable, let's all be uncomfortable. But when it comes to you're not finna. I'm not finna have you in. There is literally no sport that a trans person can be in competing against women. I'm saying it's competing against women. That's gonna be fair. It's none. Now, if you want to have them compete against men, cool. All right, let them compete against men. I'm actually all right with that. No, you can't compete against women. Compete against men. That's fair. See how that work out for you. Is that not? I mean, and I welcome anybody in the audience opinion on this. I want to hear your opinion on this. I welcome all the hate and backlash. Do not direct it at Mr. 411. It is strictly Hot Tub Tony. The views of Hot Tub are only mine by the loan and do not reflect the views of Mr. Brooks or Mr. 411 Sports World Network. So you can hit me on. You feel free to hit me on my Instagram, hit me on my TikTok, express all the hate.
I mean, part of what's wrong, part of what's wrong with the world these days is people don't want to talk. I mean, people don't want to talk about things, especially this topic. People don't want to have an argument or a discussion about it. I mean, disagreements are part of everyday life. You're going to disagree with people, but I mean, to have the conversation, and things are so polarized these days, and there's a lot of, and this makes this topic even more hard to talk about because there are a lot of sensitivities and there's not a lot of straight answers, straight solutions
Right.
to this. It seems like every solution is unfair to somebody, and that's what makes it so hard to talk about.
Yeah.
Feel like that if it's unfair to if everybody feels slighted and everybody feels unfair, then that's exactly what it should be, right?
I mean, like you say, it's a difficult. I mean, it's not an easy fix, but because of the origin of it, right? Maybe 40 years from now, there'll be more of a pool there to be able to do, have this league. But like, let's just say if it was a league put together like in the near future, you may have to figure out a way to pool it by regions, you know what I'm saying, of the country, and not just by the individual states. You may have to pool together, you know what I'm saying, like a whole Southeast and a whole Northeast and the Midwest and the West, and going to compete that way. But think about it, because think about it, if you have boxing or wrestling, even like high school wrestling, like how is that going to work when someone transitions over and now they're wrestling females, but they're thicker and stronger, you know what I'm saying? And the women, and there's already been complaints about that from females. And just like in college, where I think the lady, I forget her name, but she was in the swimmer for
Riley,
University of Kentucky. Was that her name? Riley?
Riley
Yeah.
Gaines.
Yeah, and there was a big hoopla about that in that competition. So, I mean,
She also came in fifth. So
yeah, she did. but
no, I was just
she was
saying.
complaining, but she
You would
could have
think she
finished in
got.
fourth.
Yeah, you would have thought the way she complains about it, she came in like second round. No, she came in fifth, man.
Yeah.
Hey, man,
But she said the guy got broad shoulders, man. You know what I'm saying? Like Dwight Howard.
It has to be humbling to know
Yeah.
that you as both genders. You were terrible in men and you're terrible with women.
Yeah.
You are
Right.
terrible.
Yeah.
But
And
and then I make light of it because I feel like that if you could take a dick, you could take a joke.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, I see.
people don't take jokes anymore. Yeah, I'm with you there, man.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you can't take a joke, then feel free. I welcome it, and I say these things because they need to be said. I'm intentionally going for the shock value with what I'm saying because I want you to see how ridiculous what you're asking sounds. So I'm going to give you what you're asking for. You're asking for an opportunity to play in these sports, which I think you should. I honestly do think you should be able to be given the opportunity to play a sport that you love to play. But I think you should play it against those with the similar
Mm-hmm.
advantages, or let's just say that for lack of a better term, advantages that you have. And when you're playing other transgenders, that is fair. It is not fair for you to play against the women, and on the inverse, it's not really fair for you to play against the men.
Yeah.
People. But I do think there are some transgender athletes that could compete with the men on levels, but not with the women. Not at all.
Yeah.
Because there's a boxer in the Olympics that was a transgender that almost beat a woman to death.
Yeah, the hits were too strong. Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
wasn't
So
even, that's not even safe. You know what I'm saying?
nor is having them in wrestling. No, in most sports, it's not safe for you for the men to play against the women. Now there's some WNBA players that'll torch me. That will torch me, but I'm not a basketball player. I'm not a professional basketball player. But when you put them up against even some of the worst male basketball players, they may not fare as well.
Yeah.
Nature, that's nature.
Yeah.
That's just that's biology.
That's why it's a
And
WNBA and a NBA. Because
we
Brittany Griner at what, 6'9"? That's how tall she is. Well, we had the NBA have guards that are 6'9". You know what I mean? Versus her being a center and being a dominant center for most of her career. You know what I'm saying? Like a Matumbo type center, right? But that doesn't fly against the males. Even a 6'4" male, you know what I'm saying, would crush Brittany Griner. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Dwayne Wade would crush Brittany Griner.
I,
So it's just,
I've had the opportunity to watch her play. Yeah, not that impressed. Not
right,
that
she's
impressed.
physically imposing against women. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? During her prime. Yeah.
the average WNBA player is not a 6-footer.
Right.
They have a lot now. The height has grown over the years exponentially. But yeah, it's easy to be dominant when you have a foot and a half over your competitors, but you don't have the muscle mass to play against the men. She's not a physically imposing woman. She's not. She's fairly slender. Um, so when you take her as an example, because I don't know if she considers herself a transgender. I don't think she is, but she's playing in the sport that she should be playing in with the gender that she should be playing if she considers herself trans. Now, like I say, I don't know if she does or she doesn't, but she still competes with the women. That's
Yeah,
fair.
I believe she's female. She calls herself a man, but she's female.
I don't.
You know
I
what I
don't.
mean?
Man, I don't have time for ridiculousness.
I'm just saying, she's been on record in interviews saying, you can call me what she say, you can call me dad or something like that. Um with her situation, but she
I
is
hope
a female. Yeah.
she's a horrible example of a man. I'm just gonna say that just terrible. You just like the worst example of, and I'm talking about her personal life, not her professional life.
Right.
Horrible example. You really give a black eye to manhood because Brittany Griner is a deadbeat dad. Another
I'm,
hot take. So now I
I'm
say it.
confused now. Yeah. If you're not, I'm more confused now than ever. But yeah, GHSA, Georgia High School Association. There's the interpretation of their interpretation of gender designation. There it reads right there on the screen. Interpretation of bylaw 1.47 reads as follows: girls may participate on boys' teams when there are no girls' teams offered in that sport by the school. Boys are not allowed to play on girls' teams, even when there is no corresponding sport. Note: cheerleading is a co-ed sport, so we do see co-ed cheerleaders. Interpretation: a student's gender is determined by the gender noted on his or her birth certificate. Birth certificate is the key. Do you think that Georgia High School is getting this right?
I wouldn't let the girls compete on the boys squad on any level, but as a fair compromise, I think what Georgia has set up is fair. It's fair. If you were born, if your birth certificate says you were male at birth, that hey, you're not competing in these women's sports. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, well, the question of it's right or not, I don't know, but it is it is fair.
Yeah.
I don't think you can really argue with that.
Seems like they put some thought into this one. I
I'll
give
say,
I give them
Yeah,
that.
I'll say the it's fair for all. It's fair for the athletes competing.
yes.
There you go.
I don't.
There you go.
Great way
I
to say it.
think. I don't think it's necessarily fair to the trans athletes who don't, in a sense that it doesn't seem like they can compete, and I don't think it affords them the opportunity to compete in a sport.
You don't
I'll
think
say
so?
that.
I mean, it kind of left the door open. They can compete as a man, which is
Yeah,
on.
I mean,
So
yeah,
they could play. You can play football.
Yeah,
yeah. I think it goes back to I think they want to, you know, I think they want to play with the gender they identify with. That would just be my only thing. I don't think, you know, I think to them, this is just, it would just make them feel a little bit out of place. But
Mhm.
that is just my opinion. Again,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's fair to the athletes,
Mhm.
and I think, you know, this is probably, you know, and if you're a high school sports association and you know it's fair to you have a rule that's fair to all the athletes who competing, then yeah, I think you can stand by that, you can justify it, right?
Yeah. Yep. It is a situation, people. All right. Well, any closing remarks, gentlemen?
hey man, I want to give a shout out to Brooks for being a good sport, man. It's the first time we've been on camera together, and
Yeah.
welcome to my foolishness, man. I'm a person that says the quiet part out loud, and you a great sport with it, man. You took it with a grain of salt.
No, I love politics. I love topics like this. I consider myself to be in the middle. So
And
I love debate. I like to see things from both perspectives. So this is all fun for me. I love talking politics. And like I said, I'm not going to be the one who gets rubbed the wrong way. I mean, this is to me, this is what it's about. You need to be able to talk with people and argue with people, especially people you don't necessarily think you agree with.
Yeah.
So that's what it's all about, man.
for the most part, I think we do agree on a whole lot.
Yeah, we agree. Yeah, we agree.
I kind of put you in some spots with some things I said. I know the awkward silence, but that's.
No.
I have to say these things sometimes the way I do say them to get people to understand sometimes that what you said is ridiculous, and I'm gonna say it back to you in the most offensive way that I can, but respectful way that I can, to let you see how ridiculous you sound. That's the best way I can describe what I do. So I appreciate you being the sport and going along with it. My views are my views. They do not reflect Brooks or 411. That everybody.
The original Hot Tub Tony. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this. And like I said, we're gonna do more of these type of things. We do huddle up, and then we're gonna come up with topics. And so, if there's any topics out there you want us to tackle, hey, we'll do it. And that's my thing there. But for Brooks and Hot Tub Tony, I am Mr. 411. Make sure you do all the good things. Hit the like, subscribe, notification bell, share, because sharing is caring. Make sure you follow Brooks on Twitter. Make sure you follow Hot Tub on Instagram and TikTok. And make sure you follow Mr. 411 on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. All right. We out of here. Everybody have a good one.